You're listening to Foxx on the Wire podcast. All right, Brad Marr, welcome to Foxx on the Wire.
G'day, man. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right, doing fine. Just middle of the night here in Germany, but having a coffee and using my time wisely, as wise as I can. Yeah.
Cool. Well, like you said, you can't really go anywhere anyway, can you? You're in lockdown over there.
It's still 2020 for a few more days, so the world's still officially, screwed.
Yeah. So what's lockdown look like over in Germany at the moment?
Well, at the moment, everything's closed. But people, I thought, all my friends in Australia, I still have them on Facebook and everything. But people over here take it better. Like they don't. Right. There's no conspiracy theories. The news doesn't overhype things. Everyone's just takes it in their stride and stays home for a month or two, and goes into rations. I think the Germans are a little bit more prepared for controversy and things than the Aussies are. So yeah, it's not the end of the world. We just don't do anything for a couple of months. Right. Focus on the good things.
Was Christmas sort of totally cancelled like in the UK, or?
Yeah, pretty much. We had I had the mother and the parents-in-laws come over just to say hello and everything. But no big dinners or celebrations or anything. So
Jeez, what a year, man!
Is what it is. Crazy. Isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
We've actually cancelled. We've cancelled 3 tours this year. So or postponed them. So it is what it is.
Yeah, some really good tours there from what I could sort of see. Really big shows for you guys over there. So that would have been just absolutely devastating.
Well, I mean, the good thing with the festivals and all that is it's all going to roll over to 2021. We're not going to lose the opportunities. We just have to, count our losses and wait a year basically. And we had big plans for this year. We're coming back to Australia to do a live DVD at Max Watts in Melbourne, and we were going to record a new album, and we just haven't done anything. We had to postpone it all. So we'll get on with it.
Yeah, I think of a lot of bands that would have been in. Well, every band really. I'm sure every band had plans, big or small, and couldn't really do any of them. I know. What's the band name? Escape me for the moment. Another Aussie rock band. They had some big tours lined up, I think, with Iron Maiden and support slots.
Oh, was it Airborne?
Airborne, yeah.
Yeah. I saw that they had like 50, 60 shows across Europe booked, but
Yeah.
But they do perfectly fine. Next year I'm sure they'll have another 60 or 70 shows with Iron Maiden and whoever else. So yeah. But I mean, it's big and small. Like every band that we know and we work with, it's just had to rethink your plans and think outside the box too. Like a lot of bands, not the bands at the bottom of the level, because they working for a living and whatnot, and the bands at the top, probably have a slush fund of money ready to go. But the bands that are kind of in the middle that are making enough money to consider music a full-time job, but then have to work 9 months a year to keep that going. They're the ones that are really struggling. They're the ones that have to go and do we get a job somewhere else, or do we push on for a year and go into debt? So those are the ones that have struggled. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's a massive thing, being able to get yourself to a point of being able to live off your music. You're obviously working, around the clock, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. To be able to do that and just to have that basically shut down on you would have been absolutely devastating, I can imagine. So
yeah, absolutely. I know so many bands that that do it all themselves. Over here in the UK, like there's a big movement of rock bands coming up, and they're making enough money to consider it, for it to be worthwhile. And then all of a sudden, just you're working 24 hours a day and there's no money coming in. All the gigs are postponed. All the gigs are cancelled. And right now, like we've been lucky because we released a cookbook of all things. We released
Yeah,
a
I
rock
saw
and roll.
that.
And it was we can all cook. Like they're real recipes and they're our recipes, but the idea was to make some money. Really,
Yep.
give people a cool Christmas gift to buy for their friends and family. But for us, it was a necessity. And now, as of this week, we can't post outside, to the UK or outside of each country. Like all the post is shut down. So our
Wow.
merch has basically stopped as of this week until
man.
further notice. So it's one thing after the other.
Far out. Just having your legs pulled out from under you. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
actually,
our only source of income at the moment for the band was merch, and that's just been stopped basically in its tracks.
man. Well,
Yeah.
I don't talk about it very often, but I actually work for Australia Post. So
The enemy.
yeah, so I worked through this whole thing, and it became very evident how essential we were for all sorts of businesses to be able to move to an online format. And be able to send things, through the mail, whether it be musicians or whatever. A lot of people moved to their merch and online side of things because, their shops shut down or you couldn't play gigs and that sort of thing. So that's pretty devastating for you guys to have that pulled out from under you as well.
We were sort of lucky in Australia because we run all our merch from over here. International shipping, if you set it up right, we've got a merch store and it's all official. It's not much more expensive to post, a merch item or 3 or 4 merch items from Germany than it is to send from Melbourne to Queensland. If you send it right and if you do it correctly, it works out just fine. Add a few dollars on extra for postage and whatever, but we knew that it was going to be hard to send out the cookbooks, especially. So we had 500 cookbooks shipped to Australia from our merch store in Germany, just in time because we can't post from over here now back to Australia, small items. So at the moment there's 500 not 500 anymore. We've sold a bunch, but a whole bunch of cookbooks sitting in a storage room in Australia. Wow. For one of our mates to go out and send them out whenever we sell a book. So it's pretty crazy.
Cool.
The things we had to do just to get by, things we used to take for granted, selling something online, take it all down to the post office on a Monday and send it all out. Now we've got, bunches of merches here and in different countries and different places and people having to help us out. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's good you've been able to adapt, even though it sucks that you had to sort of go to those sort of lengths, but you've obviously got people willing to help you out and stuff. So, but yeah, I saw your cookbook there, and I was flicking through the massive Facebook feed, and I've got to say it made me pretty hungry. There's lots of photos of good looking food there, so I might have to pick up one of these cookbooks.
Maybe we'll shoot you one over, no problems. We all found out we can cook. Each other can cook by staying in Airbnbs. We'd all fight for the kitchen.
Wow!
When we're on tour, when we play 30 or 40 shows in 50 days, and you're eating truck stop food and just eating pies out of a service station. Every time you have a kitchen and a day off and time to cook, man, it's like it's heaven. So,
wow.
I don't know if you can see it now. You probably can't. It's posters right there of all our tours. We'd have 5 days off and we'd all just fight for a kitchen and whip up some curries or just food to make us feel like home. And then, then it came to what are we going to do for the next 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months of this lockdown? We all started posting cooking photos, and then a couple of beers later and a couple of crazy ideas later, and it's writing a cookbook takes a long time, man. I don't know if you've ever tried to put a book together. Jesus Christ, it was the cooking was the easy part. It's dinner, and then you sit down at the computer and try and make it look like a book. That took a lot longer than we expected, but we're musicians who have a book out, so here we are.
That's pretty incredible. That's a great idea. So is being able to cook one of the requirements to be in Massive these days?
It's not a requirement to be in Massive. I reckon it's a requirement to be in a touring band. Like, I think it's so important. Well, it is for us because we drink a lot. So, if you have a day where you can just sit down to a nice bloody meal at the end of it all, then you can, pick yourself back up before the next drinking session, I guess.
Wow, that's a great effort. Great effort. I can't cook for whatever, but I won't pretend to. But maybe I need this book, and maybe that'll just change everything for me.
Get yourself some dinners in you.
Yeah. Then next time we catch up for another episode in a year or so, I can tell you how much my life has changed.
Yeah. It's not a rock and roll thing, is it? The home cooking cookbook for your kitchen needs. But I think we made it cool enough to be massive.
Yeah, it's a great idea. So where can people pick that up? Just from your website or? Yeah,
website's the easiest. We've got a couple of local stores selling it, but get it off our website makes us more money. So just massiveoz.com.
Yep.
So,
cool. I'll chuck a link in the show notes and people can
please do.
Pick it up. Yep. So a lot of artists, I think it was a bit harder for bands, but a lot of bands did it still. Did the whole online live gig thing. Did you guys get into that at all? I saw you did a acoustic performance or two.
Yeah. We couldn't really do much live performances. We don't live anywhere near each other. We're all 10 hours apart minimum. So we only ever get together for tours. So, I set up my lounge room. I put up the stage banner right across this lounge room on the other side of this computer. And, I set up Christmas lights in the middle of May and made my house look like a stage and just did some live concerts, I guess. It was more for sanity reasons. I just was going to go mad if I didn't play music. I wasn't, put a tip jar up, and if people tip me, that's great. But, just to plug in the mic and piss off my neighbors and then, make some noise was good for me, good for the soul, So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So there's four of you guys from Massive. Where are you sort of located? You're obviously in Germany. Where are the other guys?
The drummer's in Newcastle. The guitarist is still in Melbourne. And the bass player currently lives in Traralgon in Victoria.
Right.
So we're all over the shop, man. We do all our band meetings over Skype or Facebook chat or whatever.
Yep.
And we all obviously practice the sets at home and whatever. And then when it comes to going on tour, we don't do a 5-day tour. We do a 30 or 40 or 50-day tour. And have 3 or 4 rehearsals before we go on the road and catch up and, see how much weight we've all put on and how big our beards have grown in the time we've been away. So
yeah, especially in 2020. I think everyone's packed it on a little bit. So
sitting on your ass for 6 months at a time is pretty hard.
Yeah. So when did you decide to make the move to Germany, and why did you move there?
Yeah, well, in 2016, we kind of had this idea of just coming to Europe and for a year and filling up as much of the tour schedule as we can. And we had a pretty big label putting us on things, and like Metal Hammer and Kerrang magazine were putting our names in their magazines. So it was worthwhile for us to come over. And we had like 40 or 50 dates booked, and we had Hard Rock Hell Festival on the main stage. It was great. And within 90 days, we were bankrupt. And we had to basically come back home to Australia because we ran out of money, and, it was too hard, and it was full on. Like we just, going on tour and having an end date is one thing, but going on tour and just saying you're going to go until forever and slogging it out, you never get that picking back up. You never get that stop and lose the, gain the momentum back and have that want to go back on tour. You're just constantly bashing your brain into the ground. So we wore ourselves out in 2016 and really kind of lost the love for it. But we all went back to Australia, and I kind of started writing the next album and whatever. Booked the next we had some 2017 dates booked already. We played Rambling Man Fair with ZZ Top. We're on an hour before ZZ Top, so it was really cool to be playing to all their fans. But yeah, then I stayed for a couple of months, went on Tinder, and now I have a family. Whoops.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Yes. Congrats on the. How old's your baby now?
He's 2.5, so he's not really a baby anymore. He's a
right.
crazy little kid. But like the plan was always to come here and move here. The rock and roll scene here is so much better than Australia.
Yep.
Like there's a ladder to climb. In Australia, I think you'll find like you can be that good local band and you can pull your 200 friends. That's the kind of the limit for a local band, is get to that level where you can pack a club. But to get to that next level of the major festivals and that, you can't do it in Australia unless you're on Triple J, and rock and roll is not on Triple J anymore. So, for us, the only way forward was to come to Europe. And for us, having me on the ground, we don't have to all be out here slogging it all the time. We can tour, go home, have our own lives, and then go back on tour and just keep producing content and keeping it relevant is important. But as long as we're back on the road every year and the shows keep getting bigger and the opportunities, the festivals keep getting bigger, it works for us. I think we're in a really good position where we've got some guys in Australia, we've got some guys over here, and we just go on tour when we need to. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Like, I mean, it is getting harder to sort of see a successful path down here in Australia, I think. And I think for what you guys do, the type of music you do, there seems to be a really good market for you guys over there.
Absolutely.
Because I think going back to Airborne again, like I think they tour over there quite a bit, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're household names over here. And it's funny because you tell people when we're here and people go, "Oh, you're Australian, Airborne?" Yeah, I used to live 2 streets from Joel. Yeah. It's just and Ryan O'Keefe. It was just they're an Aussie band. We're an Aussie band. We're both doing similar things. Of course, we know each other, but the people over here have no idea how they're big in Australia, but they're not anywhere near as big as they are over here. They are the rock band over here now. So when you tell a German or a Brit how, in Australia, Airborne are a big band, but radio won't touch them and festivals, don't care. They can't believe it. It's Airborne. How can Australia not care about Airborne?
Yeah. So what's going wrong there? I mean, that's probably a big thing to dissect, but what's the problem there? It's, I think we like their style of music down here as fans of music. So why don't they get those big opportunities? Like, what's going wrong there?
It's pretty easy to say that rock's not dead. Like if you go to a Screaming Jets concert or a Rose Tattoo concert, there's still fans. They're still packing out rooms. You go to a Red Hot Summer tour, and it's got six bands. None of them from this century. They're all from the 80s and the 90s. And there's 10,000 people there, all singing every song. So the music's not dead. The people still like the music. It's just over here, for example, there is 50 festivals like that. Bands, as long as you're good and as long as you're working hard, if you're a small band, it doesn't matter. You'll still get a spot on a festival. The opening spots, all the small stages on festivals over here are dedicated to new bands, and that's not the case in Australia. Download over here, the 4th stage is all local bands. All the bands that we sort of know in the UK, at least, they've all played Download. Can you imagine, like, all your mates' bands, as long as they're working, have all played a festival in front of 80,000 people, and you don't get that in Australia at all. So that's the difference. There's those ladders of the success to climb up in the UK and in Europe, and not in Australia.
So is it the older bands like the Red Hot Summer Tours and that they're just not bringing on new bands? They're just using those same bunch of already successful older bands. They're not sort of bringing in the newer bands to sort of give them a platform.
100%, man. And it's not the band's fault. Like you can't blame Jimmy Barnes for going out there and making money. It's his job, you know. If he gets the offer, it's not his job to say no, give it to someone younger. He should take it, absolutely. The promoters, on the other hand, you know, and nothing against like the opening bands on those festivals. It's just the opening band is a 90s one-hit wonder or an 80s one-hit wonder. How many people are spending $150 to go to Red Hot Summer Tour to see the opening band, who probably only has, you know, 500 diehard fans to just have a one-hit wonder in the 80s, so they're still getting the spots. You know, if you could give that spot to a younger band, the numbers of the crowds are not going to change. People are still going to come watch Jimmy Barnes, and they're still going to come watch, you know, the Hoodoo Gurus or Screaming Jets.
Yeah.
But they're also getting something new. And you know, I can tell you right now, there's every single local band in Australia would play one of those festivals probably for free, you know, or for a couple of $100. So the festival's saving money, the crowd are getting something new, and the bands are getting exposure to people who like rock music. It's you know, it's so common sense. It's so basic. It's dumb that they don't do it. Yeah.
Well, that sort of actually takes me back to when your older band and our band, it's hard to think back that far. It's a bit foggy, but I'm pretty sure we shared some stages together, or at least, you know, bumped into each other here and there.
I'm trying to think back when it was like 12 years ago or something like that, wasn't it? I'm trying to think back when Misty Fizz was a thing. It was a while.
Yeah. Your band, Misty Fizz, and my band, Own Kind. You know, it was probably even 2005, 6, 7, around there. But we had
do one of those Mick LeGrand shows together. I knew it. I was trying to think back of what it was. But yeah, Mick LeGrand, that's the name to go back.
And that's like, we had the opportunity to support the bigger bands because he was running, you know, Screaming Jets shows, Hoodoo Gurus. She had Airborne was one of them, like all those sort of things. And bands like yours and mine had the opportunity to support them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we had to, you know, it wasn't easy. We had to sell tickets and,
of course,
you know, really work for it. But
it's still a business in the end. The promoter is, you know, gambling his own money, his or her own money, to put on this big show. And, you know, I understand, like, you know, the Red Hot Summer Tour is going to, you know, make sure that they make money. They don't want to do this and lose money. So I get that. Mick LeGrand's way of doing it was, you know, risk all this money on a big band and then get the support bands to sell a ton of tickets. But the support bands will be willing to do it because they're playing to a big band. It's just kind of a balance thing. There's actually an Australian promoter now called Silverback Touring. I don't know if you've heard of him, but or them. But they're kind of doing something similar. Like, they're bringing out big bands. They're actually bringing out international bands and doing a similar thing of getting local bands as a support. And it's really cool because, you know, there's a Sydney band called Bad Moon Born who are getting all these great supports, played with, you know, Buck Cherry and Hardcore Superstar and bands like this. So they're getting that kind of exposure in Australia. But one promoter doing it's not going to change the scene. You know, it's got to be an industry-wide, you know, focus towards the future. But we'll see what happens.
Well, it might be enough to sort of, you know, inspire someone else to do a similar thing, and then it goes on from there. But
well, if they make money, you know, promoters want money. So if it makes money, then other promoters look at it and go, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but we had a pretty good run there for a little while. You know, we're playing some good shows to a packed Furniture Gully hotel room and that sort of thing.
That's right.
It was really good, you know. It was but I don't sort of see that.
Butterfly Effect, and I think we played with Screaming Jets, and we actually did a Shannon Knoll one. I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
You know, Shannon Knoll brings a big crowd. Most of them are 50-year-old mums, but we'll rock it. So
it was good times, but I couldn't specifically remember some of the gigs that you and I sort of shared. I'm pretty sure it was one at Musicland. That wasn't an MLG one.
No, of course.
But it's a bit foggy going back that far.
I don't know if you've been to Musicland in the last 10 years, but they've completely changed that place. I actually did a podcast with them probably about a month or two ago. And the whole place looks completely different. Those guys just renovate and make that place like a, this 2-tiered bloody rock concert venue in the middle of Faulkner of all places. Like, they should be getting bigger shows there because of the greatness of that venue. It's awesome.
Right. Yeah, I haven't been there for quite a while, I've got to say. But it should be more popular than it is because, being located on that side of town, there's not much else out there for live music.
Yeah, so, I think it's more a matter of just them getting out there and maybe taking on the risk of taking out and getting a big band out there. I'm sure that people would come out to Faulkner to see a big band play. It's just again, money. It's always a problem.
Have they still got the music shop at the front?
Yeah. They've got a music shop. They got a second venue out the back now.
Wow.
It wasn't there when the last time I was there. I just saw it on the having a little video Skype chat with them and walked through the venue. So yeah, it's crazy.
So going back to the whole opportunities thing down here in Australia, I mean, even for radio and for music videos, there's not much at all, is there?
No, it's funny. Like, I mean, you can say Triple M doesn't play enough new music, but they're a commercial radio station. They sort of have to play to their sponsors and their audience. They still have to make money to be on the air. The Triple J side of it, though, is the letdown. That's a government-run radio station. They should be representative of the music industry, of what people are playing. So if people are playing rock music, Triple J shouldn't snub it. They should be playing rock music too. And I get that, rock isn't as popular as it used to be. So yes, the indie, the pop, the dance and techno and whatever else out there is happening, sure, that has to be represented as well. But there still has to be a point where you go, Airborne are smashing it. Airborne have a lot of fans. Airborne should be on Triple J. And us and every other rock band that's trying out there to get a name. If you've got fans and they're young and they're coming to gigs, you should be represented on Triple J, and it's not. So that's a major problem in Australia. In the UK, there's Planet Rock Radio. It's a digital station, but they have 1 million listeners on average, and they play new music. They play a lot of old stuff, but they're not bound to like the Oz Stereo Southern Cross that Triple M is. They're not bound to that. They've still got corporate sponsors and everything, but it's so much easier if you invest in a radio plugger and some PR and your song's good. Most likely you'll at least get a few spins on Planet Rock Radio in the UK, and you will, you're hoping for dear life to get one spin on the new music show on Triple M. So
yeah, it seems to be getting tougher and tougher. I mean, I know as a musician myself, just getting a radio interview and just different things like that, getting my video on Rage, which not long ago was possible. It's just impossible now. And I mean, that's part of the reason why I started this podcast, I think, was to create another platform for all of us, as small time as I am right now. I'm hoping I can build and just create another platform for us.
It's good to use the platform like this to talk about stuff and exchange ideas with bands. And I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time, not just music podcasts. I listen to everything because it's just something easy to listen to. So if you can exchange ideas and have this kind of platform to talk about rock and roll, it's it's all the better, really. Music's moving forward these days. It's not so much about to these days over here especially, it's more about like Spotify playlists and stuff like that. That's really important. That's the new radio. So as long as you keep thinking forward and moving towards something better and newer, then you're not out of the game, at least, that's for sure.
The Spotify thing's a big thing. That's something I've focused on more this year as a musician, like releasing singles at a time, which I've normally done albums in the past, but on the single option this time and focused on the Spotify playlist aspect. So Yeah.
It's the new norm now. Is 5 singles before your album. You know, even if they don't have video clips, it's just single, 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 and then if you're going to release an album, those 5 songs are already on the album, but you've already had 6 months of promotion with your singles. So yeah.
Yeah. It's good that we can control all that ourselves, though, as
Oh,
artists.
absolutely.
We don't. Yeah.
People go that you're not making enough money off Spotify. It's ripping off the artists and whatever. But yes, sure, making more money would be great. But also, 20 years ago, making an album and distributing it to the entire world would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
To get it in stores in a different country would be almost impossible. And now you can do all of that for a few grand in your lounge room or your bedroom, and have the exact same result. So yeah, you make less money. You also save an impossible amount of money getting it out there. So it balances.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, we have to rely on the bigger bands and that to sort of go after Spotify for more royalties. Us here on the ground don't really have much clout to sort of demand Spotify to pay more money, but maybe one day, who knows? But
the thing is, if they upped their royalties from 0.0004 to 0.005, you and me would never even notice the difference.
No,
Spotify would lose tens of billions of dollars, and the big artists will be making all the money anyway. So it wouldn't actually change anything except for make Spotify a poorer place. So
yeah, I mean it's a beautiful thing, really. The reach that we can get, and even as a music listener, it's fantastic. It's not expensive, and you've just got access to all this music just at the tip of your fingers. It's a beautiful thing, really.
Chuck it on when you're driving or when you're going for a run or whatever. It's just music in your ears. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's got podcasts on there as well, and with
absolutely.
the Joe Rogan podcast now, you got the video on Spotify now.
Yep, so that's cool, man.
It's pretty cool. So, you guys have got 3 or 4 albums.
We've got 3 albums out. The 4th album's written. It's basically all demoed. We're just obviously waiting now. We're waiting till we can get in a country together and do it all. We contemplated doing it sort of like in satellites, going to a studio here and getting the drums done and then sending over the files and doing some tracking guitars. But we're still old school in the recording. We still want to get in a studio and play live and get that vibe. So it's better to wait, even if it's a year or 2, it doesn't matter. Better to wait and get in the studio and make rock and roll the way it's supposed to be. So
yeah. So that was obviously the plan this year. Do you know where you're going to record it? Like where you plan to do it?
No, we were going to do it in St Kilda. Not St Kilda, Altona. Colour Sound Studios. We were going to do it there, but that's probably going to change now. We're probably going to. We've got a tour in the UK in November. We're playing a couple of festivals. We've got all our rescheduled tour dates. We've got like 30 shows that we have to reschedule, and we've got a tour with the Choir Boys in the UK.
I saw that. Yeah,
but we're going to extend the trip for an extra 2 weeks and use that 2 weeks to record. Obviously, have to find a studio and a producer that suits us. But I mean, it's either that or we wait till we come back to Australia, and we don't know when we can come back to Australia yet. So we're just holding out. Might be a year, might be longer. So who knows?
Yeah. Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, jeez, just so many plans on hold for everyone. It's so this support slot with the Choir Boys. Where was that taking you? Just sort of across Germany or across?
It was in the UK. It was 15 dates across the UK.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy. Like it's every city basically. We're just going 1 hour up the road, another gig, another hour up the road. It's we're covering the entire UK pretty much.
Wow.
No one's missing out. So yeah, we're on the same label in the UK, and it was pretty easy setup. We played with them last year, 2 years ago, I can't remember now. And it was a really cool show. We got along really well. So hit it off, and we're going back on the road. So it should be good.
Awesome. And I saw that you announced a new show for November next year, which was the Hard Rock Hell Festival.
We're doing Hard Rock Hell.
alongside one of my favorites, Skid Row.
Cool.
And
Yeah,
Ugly Kid Joe.
Yeah, they're great guys too. They're we've played with them on festivals before. And we've hung out with Wit plenty of times. We I think it was 2016. I think we were on the road at the same time. We played a few festivals together, and we're both touring, but we ran into each other like 4 times on the road because we're playing the same. They were playing the big venues, and we were playing the clubs, but in the same. There's a lot of venues over here that have a big hall with a club attached,
right?
And so they were playing the big hall while we were playing the club. 3 or 4 times on the same tour. We're running into each other, every week with those guys. So we caught up with those guys and hit it off. So, cool. They're really cool dudes. Whit was living in Melbourne for a while. Whit Crane from the Ugly Kid Joe was living in Melbourne for a while. So
really,
had plenty of late night beers with him over the years. So yeah, it'll be good to see those guys again. And Hard Rock Hell's a big festival with, a lot of diehard fans. So it should be good to get out there and smash some ears.
Wow. So what does the you sort of touched on it, but what does the German music scene look like? Forget 2020. What does the general nightlife in Germany look like with live music?
Well, rock and roll over here and hard rock is pop music. Like they love it. It's so much cooler to go into a bar and hearing, going into a bar that looks like a pop, dance bar and having, AC/DC or Guns N' Roses playing over the stereo. It's so cool to see young people just loving rock and roll music. It's cool. It's great, and you get on stage and as soon as you say you're Aussie, all the crowds are like, AC/DC, yeah.
Oh yeah.
They just die hard rock and roll fans, and I don't think they'll ever change. I don't think the trend of like the rest of the world is going to like indie and pop and that. I don't think Germany will ever change from their loud guitars and bashing the rock and roll stuff out. No way.
Bless you, Germany. Bless you.
Yeah, it's good.
So you've been at it a long time, Brad. How long has Massive been together? Was it 2012 you guys formed?
We started in 2012, and basically we just went into a studio and recorded a couple of songs. Me and the drummer, Jared, back then, we were sick of the bands. We're not sick of the bands we were in. We just wanted to do more. I was in a band called Fast Track, and he was in a band called The Deep End, and we just went, stuff it. Let's record some songs and go overseas. So we just picked up with a guitarist and a bass player, and we went to America with 3 songs.
Wow.
With no idea what the hell we were doing. We just, we went and got 1,000 CDs printed in LA, and flew to LA and picked them up from the shop, and then just went out and got absolutely hammered and met people and tried to score some gigs in Hollywood, but no plan, like nothing booked, not even any hotel booked. At one point, we didn't have a hotel. We made friends with some backpackers and stayed on the floor of someone's backpacking hotel, and we just roughed it and made lifelong friends and whatever. And whether we got anything out of that, it wasn't a matter of making fans and meeting industry people. I think it kind of bonded us as a band, but it did kind of get us something. When we came back to Australia, we had like a homecoming show. We hit up with do you know Electric Mary, the Aussie rock band? Yep. Those guys, we hit it off with those guys and played some shows. Okay. And the bass player, Alex Raunjak in Electric Mary, loved us. Like, just thought we were maniacs because we were these guys that just quit our other bands and got hammered in LA and slept on the floor and were homeless in Hollywood. So after getting pissed with him after one night, he next morning he called us and said, I've got a manager friend that, might be interested in your band. And 3 days later we had a manager, and 18 gigs later we'd played a dozen gigs. Like, we hadn't been a band for very long. Then we had a manager, and then we had an independent label in Australia, and then maybe 20 gigs later we were signed to an international record deal. It was just we recorded an album on the fly. We didn't have enough money to pay for it. We had to borrow money off girlfriends and friends and family to pay for this album.
Yeah.
And it was lucky it paid off, because then we got the label, and the label gave us an advance to obviously pay back our debts.
Yep.
And that was in 2012, and by 2014 we had billboards on the on the motorways in the UK, and we're in magazines.
Wow.
It doesn't even make sense, because like we don't think we deserved any of that. Like, we didn't do anything for that. We just got lucky and got a label to back us. And when we landed, we were young and dumb, and thought it was a party and made the most of it. Now we're a lot smarter, and save a bit of money and make sure we can keep doing it every year. But back then we were just burning the candle at both ends and going out and living the dream sort of thing. So yeah,
sounds like straight out of a Guns N' Roses biography.
Well, we sort of
beautiful story.
We sort of based the band on Guns N' Roses Live at the Ritz, the DVD, the 1988 MTV live video that they released, because that was horrible. Like, it was they were drunk and out of tune, and but it was so ridiculously wild, like people going mental. And it's like, we want to do that. We want to play faster than everybody else, and we want to just have fun. We don't care about creating this well-mastered, beautiful thing. We just want to go out and make as much noise as possible. So that was the idea of the band, and here we are 7-8 years later.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, the Guns N' Roses one. Like, I've been watching a lot of old sort of Slash and Duff McKagan interviews, just going through YouTube and just pulling up all the old stuff that we have access to now, and it's pretty fascinating. I read all the biographies and stuff, and always fell in love with that sort of story. So yours definitely reminded me of all that, especially going over to LA and stuff like that. That would have been amazing to
look, we
live through.
Got absolutely hammered. We met Lemmy, we met Duff McKagan.
Oh really? Oh man.
Yeah, we just went out and got absolutely pissed and tried to meet people. I remember when we met Duff, I was wearing a Guns N' Roses shirt and I was absolutely hammered. We were just at a bar. We're at Cantor's Deli, where Guns N' Roses played their first ever local show.
Yeah.
And we had a mate there, an Aussie mate, Kez, is like, come down to the I think it wasn't the Rainbow, it was maybe the Roxy, I can't remember now. Because Duff's here. So we all just packed up and left and ran down and had our CDs in our pockets. And we were just so drunk that I'm pretty sure we just rambled his ears off, and I probably didn't even give him a CD. I can't remember. We just talked absolute and I'm sure that I can't remember because I was so drunk, but I'm pretty sure he was just like, yeah, cool, leave me the fuck alone. Like, come on.
Yeah.
We didn't care. We were like, nah, we're determined to take our CD.
Yeah. I'm sure you reminded him of what he was like, back in the early days before they got famous.
Maybe, but I just don't think that he really had time for these 3 or 4 Aussies just yapping his ear off about how we're going to be the next Guns N' Roses. Yeah, shut up, kids. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh man. He's I was watching an old Howard Stern interview with Duff.
Cool.
Sort of just after he got sober. So it was like 1996. And he was looking really good, and Howard's like, I don't even know you anymore, man. And he played back like an old phone call that Duff had made to Howard, and he was just totally messed up, and Duff's cringing just listening to it. So
I bet.
Yeah.
But you got to live and you learn. Like, back then, they got their start by trying to copy Motley Crue and Aerosmith and doing that whole thing, going out on the strip and meeting people, like going out and being the baddest band in the world. Like, nowadays, if you do that, you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to have all these tabloids saying how horrible you are. So the times have changed, and that isn't cool anymore. But they still lived it. They still did it. They're never going to live that down. That's who they were. So
yeah. I mean, you read The Dirt and
absolutely.
Some of the stuff in there, and in a way, I was surprised that they were able to release the movie, last year or the year before. Although it was pretty censored if you read the book and then watch the movie.
Yeah.
There's but yeah, I thought they were gonna cop some stuff for that, but they didn't
Yeah.
seem to.
Oh, look, it's retelling stories these days. It's like, no band is stupid enough to be doing that these days, or if they are, they're not going to get anywhere.
No.
These days it's more about, should be about the music, and it should be about, getting out there and making fans about music. But the energy of what they did is what we try to create. It's not about being this reckless lifestyle of doing tons of drugs and, whatever. We want to sound, as reckless and crazy as possible on CD. And we also want to live to a 70 so we can keep doing it for the next, 4 or 5 decades. We want to go as long as we possibly can. So,
absolutely,
that kind of balance of playing rock and roll and also playing rock and roll forever.
Yeah, well, even those guys had to give it up at some point, the lifestyle. And that's why most of them are still able to do it now, I guess, like most of the Guns guys, aside from Steven Adler, I guess, but even he's still touring on a smaller scale.
He's doing the Adler's Appetite. He's doing Guns N' Roses songs with a cover band. That's good. Yeah. It's still rock and roll.
But, he still sounds like a positive guy and still loves his rock and roll. So that's the main thing. But
absolutely.
He sort of copped it a bit harder than the other guys, I think.
Yeah, probably did the wrong drugs.
Yeah,
they're all doing drugs, but I think some of them were on the wrong drugs.
Yeah,
kind of fried their brains a little bit.
So, what's up for Massive next year? You mentioned the tour with Choir Boys, the show with Skid Row later in the year. Hopefully, recording album number 4.
Yeah. So at the moment, the first half of the year, we're just holding out because we just don't know.
Yeah.
We can't afford to book another tour and postpone it. Like, the amount of money, it shouldn't be about money, but like, all the advertising, everything that we put into the tour, and then we get none of that back and then don't tour. Like, it just gutted us. So we're holding out, we're waiting until, midway through the year. And if nothing else, the end of the year is when we'll kind of really get back onto it. We've just got a new booking agent in Australia, so we're talking about getting back hopefully by the end of next year, if not the start of 2022. And doing it properly this time, because last time we did 15 shows, and it was good. Like, don't get me wrong, but it was really the end of the European tour, and 2018 tour was huge. We went to Eastern Europe. We went to places we can't even pronounce. In little tiny towns in Romania and Czech Republic and all these places you'd never expect to go any time. And then Australia was at the end of it, so it was kind of like, all right, we're back home. It was just a few shows for friends and fans and whatever. But when we come back, we want to do something bigger. We want to get out there and do a proper big tour and play with some bigger bands. Hopefully get on, if there is a festival in Australia, get on something like that and do it big. So, hopefully by the end of this 2021 or start of 2022, we're back in Australia and, hopefully just back on the road and continue on from there.
Yeah, hopefully. How much longer is lockdown in Germany at the moment, or is it sort of just
it's
playing by ear sort of thing?
It's ongoing. It's funny over here, like, everyone has an opinion on COVID and whatever. There's 20,000 cases every day in Germany, and it's on the news. Yeah, but it's not like the forefront of everyone's conversations. People just get on with it. So apart from the fact that we're sitting in our homes and not going to work, everything else is normal. So as long as we can still afford to eat and pay the rent, we're just going on with the flow and basically taking a break until life gets back on with it. So who knows?
Are you staying creative during this time? Like, are you writing heaps, or aside from writing cookbooks?
That kind of drained my creative juices for a while. But look, actually, I've been writing with a couple of rockers over here, not for Massive, just to keep creative. We'll probably just release a couple of tracks, give it a side project name. Don't know what it's going to be yet. We've just been doing some songs. but really just to keep ourselves creative, because they, they're all their shows are cancelled as well, so they're all off doing other things. This is totally ridiculous, but there's also an Aussie DJ over here that I met up with, and it's, we are worlds apart. Like, I'm this drunk rocker from Melbourne, and he's this, future-based DJ from Sydney, but we both live in Cologne, so we actually got together and wrote a song. So we're going to release it in January. Actually, it's going to
sweet.
It's just a hybrid of music that isn't rock and it isn't, techno. It's not dance. It's nothing. It's just music that we think is really cool. And that's not to. We're not doing that to become famous DJs or the next Linkin Park. We're just doing it because we need to be creative to keep our brains kind of sane. Otherwise, we go mental.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Good to do something different and work with different people. And
it's actually really cool because I've never done it. Like, I've always been the guy in a band, whether it's been Massive or Fast Track or Misty Fizz. It's been, this whatever's in my brain is going towards that. And for the first time ever, I've gone and hung out with other musos who've sent me music. So I'm coming in at the end where there's already this song written or all this ideas written, and I'm putting my ideas on top. And I've never done that in my whole life, and it's so different. And it's cool. It's a good challenge, and it's creating different things for me and whatnot. But it's just for fun. It's if anything comes of it, that's awesome. But if not, at least I've kept my brain ticking over while my body sits on the couch.
Nice to do different things and work with different people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm definitely all for that. So look forward to hearing it. So, well, I hope next year's better for all of us, and I hope you guys can hit the road again and get that fourth album recorded and out, and hopefully we can see you back here late next year, and maybe we can do this again and talk about where you guys are at then. And so where can people find you? So you got massiveoz.com. That's OZ.
OZ, and all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, is all Massive Oz. So cool. Just at Massive Oz, and you'll find us. We're on all of them. It's not hard to find us.
Well, cool, man. Well, I've got a Fox on the Wire playlist of all the guests that I have on the show. So I'm going to add a couple of tracks from you guys, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's really cool. Thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Nice to catch up with you, Brad. It's
absolutely, mate. It's
a long time overdue, actually.
Yeah, man. When we're back in Oz, we'll definitely catch up for a beer or 30. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Look forward to it. Well, thanks for being on the show, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Go and check out Massive, massiveoz.com, and grab yourself a cookbook. I might do the same, actually. Get inspired.
Shameless plug. Love it.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, everyone.
Rock and roll. Cheers.
You're listening to Fox on the Wire.